Smart24, driving business.
And of course, as we kick off this particular hour at 8 a.m., we start off with our business tip this morning. And the business tip says the secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming task into smaller, manageable tasks, and then starting on to the first one. So the secret of getting ahead is getting started, and the secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into smaller, manageable tasks by starting on the first one. So if you want to get ahead, you have to first get started. And if you want to get started, try to manage your complex, overwhelming tasks into manageable tasks as well. So try to at least break them down by starting with the simpler one or starting with the first one. In that way, you're not failing, but you're finding ways that may not work out for you or ways that will definitely help you succeed. So that is our business tip this morning. Now let's get into our business quote for you to at least have a motivated Wednesday morning today. From Malcolm Forbes, who apparently says, when you cease to dream, you cease to live. When you cease to dream, you cease to live. When you cease to dream, you cease to live. So apparently, that is what the quote definitely tells you at the end of the day. When you cease to dream, you cease to live. Or at the end of the day, you need to at least have the dreams with you, because what you dream about is exactly what you want to work on, or it is what you visualize at the end of the day. So don't cease the fire when it comes to dreaming, because then you will cease to live. Because we live for these dreams. Sometimes we live to accomplish what we think about or what we dream of at the expense of everything. You're watching Smart Means Business. Now we're getting more from our business update this morning, and this takes us back to the developments from the oil and gas sector. And Michael Atik Ego, who is the deputy governor of Bank of Uganda, apparently broken down where support will come from, that financial support to the oil and gas sector, and of course how it will be able to contribute to the growth and the stability of Uganda's economy. That and more in this update.
I was wondering what government is doing or planning to invest domestically to spur growth in terms of production, to support the oil sector, so that the risks that you mentioned to us can be mitigated from several sectors, not just focusing our mind on the oil sector only, which is yet to come, to reality. I had earlier asked, I know the minister, you said some of these questions were not for Bank of Uganda, but again, in your opening remarks, you did confirm that you actually do this thing, both the physical and monetary policies, you work together with Bank of Uganda. As a committee, we still have fears. Yes, you've mentioned the global and domestic, projections that indicate that we're in the direction of, improve, the economy is improving.
I think the emphasis on oil is based on our balance of payments projections, right? That if you look at the current contraction of debt, it is premised on the fact that most of these maturities, let me back up a bit, between now and in the next few financial years, I did mention that our debt service is about $900 million. So that's why we've advised government that if you are going to contract any commercial loans, they should have a grace period of 4 years, because we don't want anything to mature within 4 years, since we are already laden with a $900 million debt service payment in the next 4 years. Now, what is going to cushion whatever maturity is going to fall due on the commercial loans that have been contracted? It is based on the projected exports of oil, commercial oil production, which in 4 years' time should have materialized as per the time frame. So that's why we're saying that this assumption is heavily dependent on commercial oil production taking place. And if that assumption doesn't materialize, then we know we run a risk. But that does not rule out the fact that other government interventions are not going to bear fruit. We have already factored in our growth the 6%. It does include a recovery in other sectors, including agriculture, largely owed to the measure that the Honorable Minister has mentioned impending, but they should be mindful that that cutting of expenditure should not significantly affect the growth enhancing activities.
The Deputy Governor of the Bank of Uganda has to say on the matters to do with those who are actually trying to at least go in for credit services as well and position themselves for the for what we call the oil and gas sector. Well, Uganda does expect to have its first drop of oil in 2025, and there are lots of suppliers to the sector, those who are likely to benefit directly and those who will benefit indirectly. So it's a chance of varsity opportunities coming in there. So speaking of opportunities, you can as well grow your investment journey and as well become a part-time investor with Zabu. Zabu, a platform by Altex East Africa, says you can use the USSD code *292# and follow the prompts. It is that simple and easy with Zabu. With a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings, Zabu says you can invest in government bonds and at least start your investment journey with them or continue investing with them. You'll just need a registration with the national identification number and then make it so possible for you to invest with Zabu. You can select a maturity period for your bond and keep going today. Zabu says, my money, my future. Altex East Africa says, do something new. The markets will be open within 7 minutes off the clock now. That is at 8:15 a.m. and they will close at 10 minutes past 3 p.m. That is a 3:15 Monday to Friday. The markets are only closed on public holidays and during the weekend. Zabu says, my money, my future. And it's powered by Altex East Africa, which says, do something new. The only new thing that you can do is definitely start up your investment with the platform. Our next update is basically going to rotate around the tourism sector. The growth of the sector is one of those particular key fundamentals that the government of Uganda is looking at. And of course, the Ministry of Tourism is as well working towards. There are lots of key players within this particular sector, only those who are basically who are operators or operating companies that are basically targeting foreign tourists, but there are those who are as well targeting locals, and they've been able to at least entice the locals to venture into domestic tourism, and at the end of the day adding a lot onto the tourism sector, a weight that had been destroyed by COVID-19 lockdown. And of course the tourism sector has got lots of those, and the players within the sector do still position themselves into a situation where they can earn more from this. Let's get more from this app.
And when you look at the past, from say 2020, 2021, the ministries, literally government has been cutting the funding that has been going to tourism, the tourism sector. Because in 2021, 2022, we had about 178 billion. In 2020 to 2023, we had 147 billion. And now the figures that we're looking at about 89 billion. I stand to be corrected, but so far that is the information I have. And we all know what tourism is doing for this country. We are collecting over $1 billion. We are collecting about 1.6 billion, which is over 8% of the GDP of the country. So this shows how significant tourism is. But we are investing in it less than 1%. So I don't know, when the minister talks of Uganda performing well in tourism and government promoting tourism, I stand to get to know how government is promoting tourism. Because when we look at, for example, Qatar, which hosted the World Cup, they invested over $200 billion into the World Cup. It's not about their love for football, but it's about them promoting tourism, them exposing what they can
would you like to
us.
summarize?
So I'm coming to the point. The minister has talked about, that is why I want him to clarify and give us and explain to us the government strategy, because you've talked of tourism roads. I have a list of all the tourism roads here and what government plans to do. Literally, there is nothing you're going to do in the coming financial. So I don't know which road you're talking of. Yes, I have about, there are those that are complete, that were done previously. But when I look at those that are pending, they are actually under the unfunded priorities. So I don't know what your plan is. How do you plan on promoting tourism, given that it is our biggest forex earner in the country?
In 2025. As it is today, we have all the necessary legal frameworks in place, and we are busy implementing all the interventions that are required in this sector. So we are still on schedule.
So are you suggesting,
but at the same time, we need to emphasize, like the governor is indicating, the issue of enhancing our exports, the export sector to continue performing.
Yeah.
And that's why we are looking at more commercialized agricultural production, investments in tourism. Uganda, I think, has been voted by, I think, the CNN as one of the best destinations for tourism. And in fact, despite the Ebola we had, we are seeing increased numbers in terms of tourists coming to this country. In fact, we have gone back to the pre-COVID levels of inflows of tourists into this country. And we want to capitalize on that advantage. So all these should contribute towards our capital account to make sure that the scenario the governor was describing does not arise. At the same time, we are putting a lot of emphasis on the private sector because the largest contributor to our GDP is the private sector. As a matter of policy, we are saying we are enhancing tax administration as opposed to raising further taxes to ensure that the private sector becomes more active. And the investments we are doing in terms of development financing to have increased access to development finance at affordable rates. I think these are all intended to stimulate private sector growth as a contributor to
Madam Chairperson.
What in particular?
Yeah, well, of course, I'll make this statement cautiously, aware that there's fiscal contraction in terms of the amount of money we are spending. We have reduced, as for those numbers, we have reduced our appetite for borrowing, considering what is happening on the financial market. But at the same time, in terms of investment in road infrastructure, we are now emphasizing investment in tourism roads, tourism infrastructure.
But before they get to
Vice
those
Chair.
areas, they have to travel
Chair.
through either Kampala, Mpigi,
Vice Chair.
Pakwach. So you cannot just
Yeah, but
say
you
we are
cannot
only...
say that infrastructure is at zero. We really have
Vice Chair.
substantial infrastructure. We are talking about investment in these tourism roads. We are putting emphasis in that area, much as we are reducing on the scale of investment in terms of upgrading the roads from gravel to tarmac. But we are also giving more emphasis in making sure that these gravel roads are properly maintained. It's something that we did even discuss in the cabinet yesterday, that even where we fail to upgrade the roads to tarmac, we are going to make sure that the gravel is appropriately maintained to acceptable standards.
Well, apparently, some of the key issues coming in from here have apparently as well revealed that we have issues to do with or dealing with, what can I say, or how can I put it, the poor funding or less funding after government cut off the budget for the tourism sector and cut off some particular government funds at the end of the day. So this has this has as well affected these particular players within the tourism sector. It's not something that you can look at and see. But of course, with Uganda's tourism sector, there are lots of players within there, those who are benefiting directly. For example, the tour operators, those who are owning lodges within these particular tour sites, people who are dealing with the tourism sites themselves, who are working on the maintenance, and of course, pitching in all these particular ideas at the expense of everybody. And that is surely something that is in there. So for those who are actually working upon looking at how Uganda's tourism sector is definitely going and growing, it goes back to the players themselves, the active players. For example, like I was saying, in 2020 there was a rapid growth of local tourism in Uganda, and the reason as to why goes back to when the countries had decided to put on these particular travel restrictions. And our tourism sector had been, set targeting only foreign tourists. When you look at the Ugandan kind of setting, because apparently the foreign tourists were bringing in these foreign currencies, foreign dollars in here, foreign income coming in at the end of the day. And of course, it was outweighing the number of those who actually travel within the country and are locals. So at the end of the day, the popular destinations in Uganda were apparently going to close down for the last 2 years if we did not reshape and strategize to attract the locals. And with the rise of the local tourism companies, most of them, if I'm to name for you, there are quite a number of companies, tour companies that were set up in the last 2 years. Most of them, their main emphasis was targeting the young people or the youth. And that is where, for example, on social media, you go to realize there were tour companies that were advertising with the youth wearing some headsets. So they were pitching and getting entertainment, mixing up with tourism. So on the tour van or on the tour bus is where music was being played through these particular headsets just to entice more young people into tourism. So during the same period, because the entertainment sector was closed and tourism, on the other hand, attracting numbers of people, then some people got enticed into Uganda's tourism sector. And then at the end of it all, everyone was excited about being part of Uganda's tourism. So when you look at some of the popular destinations in Uganda, these include the Murchison Falls National Park, as well as the Murchison Falls themselves. Then there's the Chibale National Park, then the Kidepo National Park that is northeastern Uganda. So when you look at most of these particular ones, there is also the Queen Elizabeth National Park, which is one of the most popular tourist destinations within the western part of Uganda. Then there is Maberega, Nyinamwiru. There is the mountain Renzori, because many tourists come through, and even locals are now enticed to at least go and hit the peak of Margherita. So the tourism sector is quite important in Uganda, and if you to look at its levels, it's generating revenues, foreign revenues in the country, and of course the foreign tourists, even up to now, still outweigh the local tourists in terms of the kind of money generated from the both, if you're to put it in this way, at the end of the situation that is coming in from there. Now, Uganda's tourism statistics for 2020, for example, was around 518,000 million. That is a 63% decline. So there was a decline following the COVID-19 pandemic. There are very few numbers recorded into Uganda. And because Uganda's tourism statistics for 2019 had over 1 billion, that is 1,400,000,000. That is an 8.02% decline from 2018. So 2019 and 2020 saw a decline of the tourism figures in terms of dollars spending. When you look at the figures in 2017, The spending was around, the money that was generated from tourism was 954 million US dollars, before shooting up in 2018 to 1,522 million Ugandan shillings. Then it dropped to 1,400 million Ugandan shillings at the end of the day. In terms of percentage, 2018 had recorded a huge percentage with 25.02 of percentage in tourism, before dropping to 22.21% in regards to tourism levels. That brings us to the time when COVID-19 cases were starting up and were being reported. But of course, in between the financial year 2018 to 2019, Uganda's tourism earned the country 5.6 trillion Ugandan shillings in the GDP. That is close to 1.60 billion shillings, or 1.3 billion euros as of December 2019, before the lockdown came in and the numbers raised. So you can see why it is quite important. And some of the legislators do believe that government should as well continue with funding the tourism sector, because one of the other key things that is undermining the progress of the sector is underfunding from the tourism ministry. So there are also, when you look at the tourism arrivals in Uganda, averaged at around 709.25 thousand. That is in the period of 1990 to 2021. That is also reaching an all-time high of 1,800,000 in 2018, and a record low of $69. You are focused that same situation. So the international tourism and the number of arrivals as well goes back to lots of situations, but that is where you can see Uganda's tourism growing. And the biggest news is the fact that even domestic tourism has started to pick up. So that clearly shows that the tourism sector, if well funded, we shall be experiencing lots of money coming through. And of course, there's been already programs and initiatives set up. We had the Visit Uganda, now we do have Explore Uganda, and all that initiatives that were put in place by the Uganda Tourism Board to ensure that we preach the gospel of Uganda's tourism and we promote Uganda's tourism in the East African Community region and across the borders of country Africa as well. The contribution of tourism is undoubtedly one thing that you should not definitely forget within the East African Community region. If you're to weigh down, look at Kenya's tourism sector, the tourism sites, for example, in Rwanda, which has apparently invested heavily in promoting of their tourism, including supporting international football teams that include Arsenal, PSG as well onto the list, and of course encouraging new ambassadors coming into that is coming through to Rwanda. And of course Kenya, on the other hand, has apparently come up together to shape up their tourism as well as sports. So they would want to use sports as well to promote tourism in what you would call sports tourism. Then Tanzania, on the other hand, as well, also following the same trade as that of Kenya. But speaking of sports, after the break, we shall be back with sports business and as well the latest from the world of entertainment business with Barija Andrew. So stick around to Smart Means Business. We'll be right back giving you the latest from the world of business.
Smart24 Driving Business.
My name is Kaheru Bright Bernard, a sales and marketing consultant with Bukona Agro Processors. Bukona Agro Processors is a local manufacturer of green energy, specifically ethanol, for clean cooking. The factory was established in 2013. Factory work started by 2019, and by 2020 we got support from government through Uganda Development Corporation to further improve our production, manufacture stoves that would be used, that would use ethanol for clean cooking. So with that fuel, we're producing fuel, green fuel, with the bio stoves for clean cooking. And we are in a partnership with GLU Diocese that has about 9,000 local farmers producing cassava, which is a which is a raw material for the production of ethanol. And we also use maize and grain, specifically sorghum, for production of the fuel. And currently we are exporting to Kenya. We have a partnership with Vivo Energy that supplies Cocoa Networks, a distributor of clean cooking solutions within Nairobi, Kisumu, Nakuru, and other parts of Kenya. We're also distributing within the local market in Uganda, but with, of course, the production of biostoves, we hope we shall also improve our distribution network within Uganda to develop the culture of clean cooking using ethanol made from cassava that is locally produced here. And we hope that is going to support sustainable development goals, specifically SDG 13, 7, and 3, since our effort is to reduce the use of charcoal that has seen a lot of forests cut down, that has seen a lot of Mother Nature being lost, and most importantly, carbon emissions that are being emitted into the sky, causing a lot of green energy issues here and there. So we hope with as we scale up further with support from government, specifically Uganda Development Corporation, we shall be in position to achieve these objectives, develop that culture of clean cooking, and have people consume more of that food. And within our community, we have really had a lot of impact, created a lot of jobs for the local farmers, about 9,000 farmers under the Archdiocese of Gulu Catholic Church. And of course, the local people within Nyoya, within Gulu, and the surrounding areas have gotten employment. We're employing close to 200 people on a daily basis as temporary and permanent staff. And that has really had a lot of impact. And we are hopeful that as we scale up this production process within the local industry, energy, specifically the energy sector, we shall change lives and we shall improve how we consume, how we cook, how we ensure we are consuming our environment through effective, clean, and healthy cooking solutions.
Whether it is Katogo, Chikomando, Rolex Majasa to Nyanya Mbisi. Man, wherever I am, I enjoy Chinayu with your TV channels on my phone.
Enjoy a new world of entertainment with over 80 TV and radio channels, plus movies from wherever you are. Download the GOTV Channels app from your app store and enjoy 30 days of free streaming with MTN.
GOTV Channels.
Smart24 Driving Business.
I'll be back from the break and we're back with sports business. The letter is coming in from sports business and our report today will basically put it around local football in Uganda. But before that, investment should be at the back of your mind. The markets on the Zabu platform have already opened at 8:15 a.m. So should you start your investment with just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings, use the USSD code *292# for those who want to subscribe to Zabu and of course start your investment journey. Well, the market's opening at 8:15 a.m. They will be closed at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time, and these markets close at also close full time on public holidays, and of course also close full time during the weekends. But the rest of the days you can invest in these particular markets. Zabu says my money, my future. Use the USSD code *292#, select a preferred product or a preferred maturity period for your bond as well, and see your investment kick off with Zabu. With just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings, you'll be able to invest in these government bonds. Zabu, my money, my future. Politics East Africa says do something new. All right, now there is something coming in from the situation regarding Viper Sports Club having say goodbye to their coach who left, Roberto, who apparently left for Simba SC. Now this time around, after Roberto Oliveira leaving to Simba SC, Vipers were in a haste to appoint a new coach that could produce 3 tangible results at a go, which as well in vastly experienced Brazilian Roberto Luiz Bianchi Pelissa, aka Bento Bianchi. They seem to have found a perfect fit. Now, when you look at the new coach, the new coach's full name is Roberto Luiz Bianchi Pelissa, and he's nicknamed as Beto. The date of birth is 1966 November. He's 8'56". He was born in Brazil in Itatiba with a height of 1.7 meters, 5 feet 9 inches, and he once played as a defender previously in his playing time. So when you look at the Roberto Luiz Bianchi is the new Vipers coach, and of course they want to see how they will be competing in the CAF Champions League, and as well as competing to defend their championship in Uganda. So the Venoms have tapped into the Brazilian Spaniard technical nous and African exposure to progress further, both on the local scene and on the international front. So it was all over Vipers Soccer Club's social media platforms yesterday in regards to how they've been able to get a new coach. Now, when you look at his managerial career, the new coach, in 2004-2007, he started his coaching with Cuidad de Mosiebi before he moved to Atletico Ciudad. Then 2009 to 2010, he moved to Zamora. 2010, he moved to Loco Deportivo in Spain. 2011, Batavia Union. 2013 to 2014, he moved to Monterrey. And then 2014 to 2015, he moved to Shabab Al Odon. Then 2016 to 2019, he moved to Angola with Petro de Luanda. And then in 2017, he coached the Angola national team. 2020 to 2021, he was coaching Casma. Then 2021 to 2022, his last club before joining Vipers has been Interclub. So at the end of the day, Vipers coaches in the last 5 years, if you're to look at this, Vipers has been having Miguel de Costa in 2017. That was the full year from Jan. And of course, moved on to Javier Martinez Espinoza from August 2018 to January 2019. Then they had Michael Nam Ouma between 2018 to July 2019. Then they moved on to Fred Kajoba from January 26 to May 2021. Then Roberto Oliveira from August 2021 to December 2022. So when you look at this, Roberto Oliveira been one of those particular foreign coaches who has stayed in for the longevity of time as the Vipers' new head coach. Now, Beto is now the new Vipers boss. So remember that is a nickname. His full name is Roberto Luis Bianchi as the new coach for the Vipers in there. So he's a former defender with Spanish roots, and Bianchi has coached in Belgium, Spain, Middle East, and Africa in the last 19 years. And his notable landmark was with the Angolan national team that he handled in the 2017 after a commendable shift at local giants Petro de Luanda. So you can definitely see that he will be adding something on two Vipers and, of course, helping them to benefit and as well go progress from the group stages in the CAF Champions League. Well, see whether they will be able to defend the championship that they are actually having. So his real deal is apparently having a win title situation. He's having a belief that he will win titles for the Venoms in Chitende. And that is it for sports business this morning. Now we're heading to entertainment business with Barije Andrew, who is set to give us more of what is coming in from the world of entertainment and what to look out for. Yes, Andrew, good morning. How are you doing today?
Doing good, Jerome. Good morning. How was your day today? How's been the morning so far? How's it?
Well, the morning is moving on so well, I should say, and progressively, I think the day will as well do so. What do you have for us today?
Well, just to get into just a little brief highlights of what we should expect. We shall look down to the Disney employees who have been instructed, actually not instructed, but requested by the new CEO, that's Bob Iger, to return to work, but they're going to be working 4 days a week. I'll get to see why is it that way. Then we shall come down to after a year, in top year 2022, Warner Brothers Discovery, ever since Warner Brothers united with Discovery Channel. It's been really tough. And for the first time in a year, we see the Warner Brothers Discovery stocks rising up. That and more coming up the business and entertainment this morning. Now, to start with the Disney employees, as we see Disney employees must return to office. That's 4 days a week. That's according to the new CEO, Bob Iger. Of course, he spent like just about 2 to 3 months in office. That is laying up strategies to ensure that Disney is really on its top game. Let me say that. And of course, most of the analysts had expected that probably he would focus on aligning Disney streaming the way, the streaming platform to ensure that there is increase in revenues. But of course, it's coming up with quite surprising strategies as a way to promote the unity amongst the workers, because Bob Iger believes that when there is unity of the workers, there will be much more creativity into the company, and that explains why we see Disney releasing, of course, the so amazing content right there. And Bob Iger says, at Disney, this is what we do. We are made, we are designed to be creative, and so he's trying to implement all these moves to ensure that they come into implementation. We see that here that the hybrid employees at Disney must return to the office 4 days, that's a week, starting March 1st, according to the new memo from CEO, that's Bob Iger. Yes. And of course, in a memo to employees Monday, that was on Monday, Iger emphasized his belief in the benefit of working together in person. And this is one of the several big workplace changes Iger is expected to make since returning to lead the company. That was in November. So we anticipate quite a lot of amazing work with his amazing teamwork with Bob Iger, and quite much more amazing. And of course, Bob Iger still applauds the work Avatar is doing. But remember, Avatar was distributed by Disney, and of course, and it's among the top on the box office, in about 1.7 billion gross sales. That's domestically, and that's still under Bob Iger. But still, I'll say that by the time Bob Iger returned to be the CEO of Disney, Bob Chapek was the person who was CEO when Avatar was being, of course, produced. So I'll say he came into the finished work of Bob Chapek. But still, I'll say we shall accredit Bob Iger. Remember, Disney became what it is today because of Bob Iger, who was first, of course, CEO, then later he left, and Bob Chapek came in. It's been just his return. It's just his second regime at Disney. So, yes, both either ways. Of course, there has been quite lots of issues, a little bit of scandals between that's Bob Iger and Bob Chapek regarding their return. The way the transition happened. Some people saying it was not fair. But that all is not just something we should really look into. Of course, we, the masses, we, the fans, what we look up to is the content that is put out there at the end of the day, the delivery that comes with it. It makes it really very interesting. Now, still, as I continue to review this report regarding the Disney employees returning to work, we see that in a statement, Bob Iger says that he also wanted to let them know that he's been meeting with teams that's throughout the company over the past few months. And of course, he's been reminded of the tremendous value that's in being together with people you work with, as you've heard me say many times. Bob Iger says that. And of course, still saying that creativity is the heart and soul of Disney, and that's who they are in terms of creativity. And in a creative business like theirs, nothing can replace the ability to connect, observe, and create with the peers that comes from being physically together. Remember, whenever we are doing this, it's a good strategy for the Ugandan filmmakers to benchmark something you learn, and you can actually try to implement it into your movie business, see how it really works. Remember, this is the creative industry, and you cannot be creative on your own. You need a team where you create ideas, and it's not about being independent, feeling entitled to the content you create. You're only entitled as a team, but not entitled as an individual. So that's what Bob Iger is trying to teach us. And I think that's a lesson that you need to learn as an entertainer or somebody planning to invest into the entertainment industry. Understand the aspect of teamwork. Working together is going to be the key. Now, still, analysts and insiders have been expecting Iger to make sweeping changes in an effort to reshape the company's streaming strategy and also prioritize decision-making by creatives. And we still see that one of his first big moves was starting to reorganize the Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution Division and to part ways with its head. That's Karim Daniel. And Karim Daniel was a top lieutenant of Bob Chapek. That's the former CEO of Disney. So that still comes back to show you the scandals, a little bit of what is really happening. Now, still in a memo, just a brief statement in a memo that Iger wrote. He said that suddenly this is a moment of tremendous change for our company and for our industry, for the global economy. But despite the challenges, at my core, I remain an optimist. Wow, I remain optimistic. Now, that's a statement from Iger right there. Iger also praised the box office performance of Avatar and The Way of the Water and other sectors that's within the company. And of course, while also speaking about ESPN's, of course, maybe this is a little bit of soccer, something related to handling of Dama Hamlin injury on air. And of course, showing grace under pressure. Well, I won't go so much into that. Let's just get back to the entertainment part of it. So Disney employees will be set to return to office from 1st of March. 4 days a week, they'll be working through that's Monday and till Thursday. I think that's one of the great resolutions that Bob Iger is putting up in place. And we actually anticipate that this initiative is going to take Disney to a whole new level. Remember, when we look at how stocks, most of these movie companies on stocks, Disney stocks have been really faring very okay. And we anticipate that this new move will actually lead even much more greater stocks rising, greater movies coming out. And of course, when you release something nice as a team, what does that mean? That means it's going to make some very good money. The reason as why most of the Hollywood movies, when it's coming to an end, the cast is endless, about 500 to 1,000 people. What does that mean? It's teamwork. You cannot be the producer of something, you are the editor of the same thing. You can't really work out the same way. So Bob Iger is trying to really work on that. Now, away from that, let's get to the Warner Brothers Discovery. After a tough year, yes, after a tough year of economic hardships, for the first time, Warner Brothers Discovery stocks are rising. Remember, Warner Brothers, before being Warner Brothers Discovery, initially it was Warner Brothers. When they united a deal, that was last year, around January, though the talks had already started in 2021, now the two companies merged together. And we anticipated that there is going to be quite some good improvement in regarding to content. Like when I say content, I mean commercial content. We had anticipated that, but things didn't really turn out the way we expected. It's been a year of hardships, despite the fact that there have been releasing quite a lot of movies and creating up the content. I will say it's been a year of massive investment. Now, after a rocky 2022, Warner Brothers Discovery stock has started 2023 with a run-up. And on Tuesday, the company led by CEO, that's David Zaslav, also received love from the big Wall Street names. Now, that's something which is very credible regarding if you're participating into the entertainment. When you get, of course, credibility, you get what we call a thumbs up from the stock analysts, from the big wigs into the stock market. That really puts you at a way that is way above, and that means you're quite very valuable, and people are going to take whatever you produce valuable. Now, that is another way one of these companies actually make some good money, and that's how they raise money. They are listed on the stock exchanges, which is not the case here in Uganda. Don't have any movie company on the Uganda Securities Stock Exchange, but that is something you can really look up to, because remember, the best way what you can do here is that you're listing or being listed on the stock. What is going to market your stock's prices to increase is the product that you put out there. If you're putting out there like very interesting products that people are very eye-catching, definitely the public is going to have the perception that your product is good, and they're going to have trust in your stock that way. That explains why Disney is where it is today. Ask Disney. Disney will tell you that, and it's really experiencing some good stock. Now, back to Warner Brothers Discovery, we see that shares of the company were up 5.1%. That's at $21.1 as of 10:25 a.m. That's ET extended. That's time in those countries. That they had ended Monday's trading session at $11.61 up to that is up for 22.5% from their 2022 closing price of just that's $9.48 per stock. So you get realized from 9.48 to 22.5%, which explains about $2 increment. That's to $11.61. Now, Goldman Sachs analyst, that's Brett Feldman, designated Warner Brothers Discovery, on which he has to buy, of course, the rating and 12-month price target of $19 or 63% upside, and his favorite media stock. He noted that the company faces the same challenges as its peers, including economic clouds and, of course, cord cutting and intense streaming competition, but trades at the low end of the sector. Stocks when looking at enterprise value earnings before interest, taxes, that's depreciation, and, of course, what we call amortization. So you get to realize that not only this Warner Brothers Discovery has been going through this, the same the peers. And when I talk about the peers of Warner Brothers Discovery, I mean likes of Universal Pictures, likes of Disney, Netflix, and so many others. So there has been quite an enormous competition. So that is really speaking quite interesting volumes regarding Disney stock prices. And once they increase the capital collection, like stocks, when you list your company, one of the ways you can actually raise stocks, people buy shares, people are shareholders. That means there is going to be a possibility of making heavy budget movies. That, for instance, because one of the greatest effects COVID-19 did to the movie industry is that there was heavy money that was invested. Movies were produced on heavy budgets, but the returns were not appropriate. The returns were not proportional to the budget. So you realize that there is need to try to eliminate that measure, that mess which was caused 2 years. So that means if if you have your stock prices really rising up, it's something that is going to be speaking quite massive volumes regarding that. It's going to increase your capital. And once your capital is on the rise, that means it's going to be much more easy for you to actually make heavy budget movies, and you're going to be able to earn some good money out of the release. Okay. We see that they estimate that Warner Brothers Discovery is best positioned to drive a growth ramp with free cash flow and deliver its balance sheet that's come 2023 as it pursues a 3.5 billion of merger synergies and relaunches its flagship streaming service. Of course, that's according to the Goldman expert writing. And of course, as such, while we expect investors to continue to debate the long-term outlook for traditional media companies, we see the risk reward skew for Warner Brothers Discovery as most attractive versus its peer group with the execution catalyst. That's a statement from one of the experts on the Wall Street, from Goldman Sachs, giving that particular insight on that. So you get to see how what is happening in Hollywood, quite a lots of amazing events happening, and it's very important to position yourself. So as the Ugandan movie filmmaker, what do you get to learn of this? You get to realize that there are quite so many ventures where you can actually raise money, not only through the money you get from the movies, but your stock prices rising up, being listed on the stock exchange. I know quite lots of there are quite lots of conditions which are put onto the companies listed. Sometimes they may be a little bit friendly to some of these companies, but I think important. But that means it would be very important if there is one voice of the movie makers coming up together, and you try to see ways in which that can actually be worked, because it's one of the great ways you can raise revenue as we are trying to grow the industry. Uganda, as we're trying to see people coming up to buy the tickets, people reporting for the movies, because in that way, I shall be in position for our companies will be in position to raise lots of money to invest back, making big production budget movies. And that's it for the business in entertainment this morning. It's exactly 55 minutes past the hour of 8. I'll be joining you right straight in the old tax back. The discussion is going to be on the impact of the potholes on commercial transport. Stick around. Good morning.